Hello algebra students, this is Mr. D'Amico speaking to you, and today's lesson we are going to be talking about is compound inequalities, specifically solving absolute value compound inequalities. And our goal for the lesson for today is, by the end of class tomorrow, after viewing this and classwork, you'll be able to solve absolute value inequalities. So if we look at our notes, and yesterday we talked about compound inequalities without absolute value, and we remember that the less than, we said less than is an and type problem. So you can see that the first problem is going to be an and problem, and the graph of an and problem generally looks like this. We look for the overlap, and we look for what part the graph shares. So there's your graph. When we are writing our two absolute value inequalities, once we get the absolute value bars alone, and you can look, the A is already alone, so we rewrite it as the way it looks without the absolute value bars. So the first one is A is less than B. Since it's an and problem, we have the word and. For the second inequality, we change two things. We change the inequality sign, and we change the number, in this case it's B, to its opposite. So that's why it says A is greater than the opposite of B. If we look at the second example, its absolute value of A is greater than B, and we said it's great or, so that's like an or problem. And if we remember, the graph of an or problem generally looks like this, where we do not look for an overlap. The graph generally goes away from each other, so there's two parts to that answer. Our two inequalities, again, once you get the absolute value bars alone, this time we have A is greater than B, and then we switch two things again. We switch the inequality sign, so it becomes A is less than, and then we switch the sign of the number B to its opposite, so we have A is less than the opposite of B. Alright, our first example is the absolute value of Q is greater than or equal to 2, so it's an or problem. So again, we should kind of be thinking of how the graph is going to look. Since the absolute value bars are alone, we can go ahead and write our two inequalities. Q is greater than or equal to 2, or Q is less than or equal to negative 2. Again, switch the inequality sign and make 2 its opposite. So we go ahead and we're going to graph these on our number line. Since it's an or problem, they're going to go away from each other. So greater than 2 goes to the right, closed circle. Less than or equal to negative 2 goes to the left with a closed circle. And then we want to write our answer in interval notation. And again, remembering from our previous lesson, when there is a space between the two solutions, we use the union. So there's really two different intervals that we have there. From the farthest left, this solution goes is negative infinity. Then it comes up to negative 2. It includes negative 2. That's why there's a bracket. And then it skips all the way up to positive 2. It includes positive 2, which is why there's a bracket. And then it goes on to infinity. So it's the union, everything less than negative 2, including negative 2, and from everything including 2 to positive infinity. Problem number 2. The absolute value of x is less than 4, so it's an and problem. The absolute value bars are alone, so we can write our two inequalities. X is less than 4, and x is greater than negative 4. Go ahead and start making our number line there. And this time, since it's an and problem, we are looking for the overlap, and there is an overlap here. So the solution set this time is everything between negative 4 and 4, but not including those numbers. So for our interval notation, we have no brackets, just the parentheses, because it does not include those numbers. Alright, number 3, a little bit more complicated. Again, the absolute value bars are alone, so that's a good thing. This is the absolute value of negative 5j minus 4 is greater than or equal to 12. So it's an or problem. We can write our two inequalities. We switch our inequality sign and make the 12 negative in the second one there. And now we are ready to solve. So this one we will have to solve. It takes a little bit more because there's a couple steps here. So if we start to solve the first inequality, we are going to wind up with j is less than or equal to negative 3.2. Now remember this, we switched the inequality sign here to less than or equal to because we were dividing by a negative. If you remember, whenever you multiply or divide by a negative and you're dealing with inequalities, you need to switch the inequality sign, which we did there, which is why j is less than or equal to negative 3.2. So if we continue in the second inequality, go ahead and solve that. You're again going to divide by a negative 5, which means we need to switch the inequality sign this time to greater than or equal to. So we have j is greater than or equal to 1.6 because, again, we are dividing both sides by negative 5, which means we need to switch the inequality sign. And now we have our number line. Again, it's an OR problem, so the graphs are going to go away from each other. And since there is a space, there's no overlap between the solutions, we are going to use union in our interval notation. So the farthest left this graph goes is negative infinity up to negative 3.2. It includes that number, so there's a bracket. And it's union because it skips all the way up to positive 1.6. It includes positive 1.6, which is why there's a bracket. And then it continues to the right all the way to infinity. There is our solution for number 3. Now, if you look on the next page, we have a couple examples for you to try. Please try those on your own. The answers are on the bottom right of the page. And please don't forget to write any questions that you have that you would like to ask in class tomorrow, because we'll be doing some more examples in class tomorrow as well as asking questions on these. And then you will be ready for your homework on solving absolute value inequalities. Thank you for listening. This is Mr. D'Amico signing off. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you all in class tomorrow. Bye.